the RG DFS Tournament Takes podcast. I am your host, Chris Kirkwood, with my boy, per usual, Derek Farnsworth, the Notorious one. But joining the show, the man who's been doing the fantasy bar forever and just missed our first week because he was in Vegas. And that's probably the only excuse that we're all like, oh, yeah, definitely. That's cool. It's Chris Prince, Beermakersfan. What's up? Welcome to the show. Welcome to the squad. How we doing?
Oh, we're doing. Happy to be here, doing a show with you guys. Me and Noto have been doing shows for, who knows, 15 years now, maybe. So good to be here. Vegas was awesome. Still recovering. Part of becoming an old guy is you can't do it like you used to, but had a good time. Definitely ready to get into football with you here today, though. No crazy stories from Vegas. I mean, it hit some nice parlays, had a nice hand pay on a machine, but tables just murdered me. So it's time to make it back here in football.
Nice. So you're gonna have to deal with the new tax gambling laws from the hand pay somehow.
Yes. Yeah, that was fun. It took them like a damn hour to go take your ID and here's your tax form and blah blah blah.
It's so stupid. Like slots is like the only thing. Like you can be down like a ton of money and then the freaking all of a sudden you hit like a quarter of your money back or something, and it's a hand pay. And you're like, and then they want their tip, and it's like, dude, I'm down so much money right now.
Exactly. Yes, the lady standing there, almost like waiting for a tip, and not, I'm a good tipper normally, so gave her a little bit. But yeah, you're right. You hit. It wasn't even that much, and you go over a certain threshold, but then hit a sports bet, and they just hand you your money and you move along. So I normally don't play the slots. Just got roped into it, got lucky, but yeah, kind of interesting.
We're doing this live. This is also on YouTube afterwards, and podcast also on the site of RotoGrinders. You can find it easily. But I wanted to say what's up to Don Yeezy, Richie Smalls. We got some people flooding in here. Chris Longo, Devontae Taylor. So it looks like we got some people for the show. So welcome. But first of all, did you play any DFS beer last week, or did you enter any lineups and then make your changes?
Oh, yeah. You enter the shell lineups, and then you fill them all out while you were out there. So decent week for me. It was profitable, no big hits, a couple good sweats. So week one is always the Wild West. We never know what to expect. And then I love week two because it's usually overreaction theater. So I think there's a lot of good spots we can attack that people are panicking about 1 week sample sizes. So decent week, but look forward to a bigger one here in week two.
Nice. We look forward to it too. Noto, how'd you do week one? How was the keeper? Oh, you must have crushed with Daniel Jones, first of all.
I didn't play any Daniel Jones. I was like the biggest truther of him the last few years. And then just listen to Kirk and his, what do you call him again?
Country club kid.
Yeah, country. I got roped into that, so couldn't play Daniel Jones in week one. But yeah, ended up binking a showdown, won $15K on the Bills game. It wasn't even cashing my lineup until the last 5 minutes. I had Keon Coleman and Josh Allen, so that was pretty nice week one. And I went to Lake Tahoe like a month ago in Nevada, and I pulled the rookie move. Forgot to enter contest before I left, so I didn't even get to play any DFS while I was out there. So good job, Beer. And if you're gambling, I don't know if you guys have ever gambled with Cal Spears, but he's never lost at a table.
No, never
lost.
Really? Guy has the light. He never loses in anything in life.
Nothing.
I talk stocks with him every now and then. All right. And he actually comes to me for UFC plays. So that's like an honor, I feel. And then I feel like I can't let him down. We got UFC today. We've got boxing tonight. This is a crazy day. So I'll tell you how my week went. It was terrible. And it was all my own fault. First of all, I played that FanDuel contest like I forgot that I saved the 150 entries, whatever, for that because the money back guarantee. So I went to make a crunch with 5 minutes to go. And I thought I did it successfully, got it all in. And then I'm looking, which one am I? Do I have any lineups, any shots here? And so I look at the top lineups, and it's a naked quarterback. And then there's no bring back. And so then I'm like, okay, one mistake here. Let me see this next lineup. Oh, same thing. So somehow I clicked at most 0 wide receiver, tight ends stacked with my quarterback, and at most 0 for the bring back. So I was hoping I'd win. So like people could just, be like, this fish, look at this lineup, But hey, if you're going to do it on any slate, that was the one to do it because you get your money back for that contest. So that was good.
Binking in the chat is saying he's there's not a narrative that he hasn't heard already this week, but not stacking any of your quarterbacks. There you go. That's a narrative that's new. So there you go, Binking.
And no bringbacks.
No bringbacks.
All right. So it was a disaster. I did okay and on Yahoo with Puka Nacua at the end, but on DraftKings I got cooked because I played Flacco and I had that game stacked. I had Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. It was just disgusting for me over on DK. But I feel like I needed to get that out of my system week 1 to do it. Now I'm all up on everything. Got my process set, so ready to go. So let's first just do the quick housekeeping. Let's talk about Combo Pro here for RG looking to get an NFL DFS access this season. Why not get more bang for your buck with this Combo Pro deal? For a limited time, you can get your first month of Combo Pro for just $79.99. That's only $5 more than any NFL DFS monthly subscription. Don't pass up this elite value. And I just realized that there's no way I should be doing these ad reads when we have beer with us. The man has the golden voice. So next week, ad read is coming your way.
No. Yeah, that's part of the host. You know how many ad reads I've read over the course of my career here? So it's time to share the wealth. You did just fine. You got the soothing tones as well. So did great.
I mean, we make stars on this show. Ticketmaster.
Bobby got a Ticketmaster deal out of this show. So, all right, let's talk week 2, the narrative, everything. We finally started to know something, but overreactions, yada, yada, yada. There's a ton of that going down this week. We do have 12 games. Crazy how the one game that blew up and won everyone the millimeter was the one with the absolute lowest total by a mile. We did give Justin Fields some love on the show. I'll say I am definitely a Justin Fields truther. I thought the Bears were stupid to get rid of him. I thought they should have just added more weapons for him. And really, it just comes down to an offensive line. That's what he needs, because he did throw some dimes in that game, and obviously he ran with his feet. So it's a pretty DFS friendly quarterback if things start going that way. Good game this week too with the Bills that we'll definitely be talking about. So we do have 12. The totals 49.5 is the highest total we got with Jacksonville at Cincy after. Cincy looked terrible. Trevor Lawrence looked terrible. But so there's a lot of plays in that game we're going to have to get comfortable with. I'll be interested to hear your guys' thoughts. Then we've got a 47.5 point total, which is Buffalo 6.5 favorites at the Jets. Then it goes down to we got 2 games with a 46.5 total. One is Chicago at Detroit, and then Philly at KC. All right, we'll talk some Mahomes, whether we think he has enough weapons to get things done. I mean, the Chiefs are looking pretty dusty compared to what they used to look like. Those injuries are just killing them. And then we have 145.5 point total. So basically, we have 5 games with over 45 point totals, and that last one is Cleveland at Baltimore, which is going to be a discussion point for sure for quarterbacks to start the slate. DK pricing looks a little soft to you guys for quarterbacks.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That's definitely a trend. Do we think that's going to be like that going forward, or do you think they're just sucking everybody in for the first couple of weeks and then they're going to hike it all up back to normal?
I mean, I hope it changes. It certainly seems we get this a lot where it's very loose. Everybody coming in, it's easy to make a lineup you like, and some years we've seen them tighten things up, and some years it just kind of stays this way. So I prefer the tighter pricing. I just think there's more edges and advantages. I get what they want to do and bring people in and feel good about things, but definitely a little soft right now on both sites. Even FanDuel, easy to find a lot of mispricings right now.
For sure. All right. So first time this season on the show. I know you were with us for a show or two last season, but just to break it down for you again, we start off with the running back position from DK, and then we go over to quarterbacks. Then we paired that with our wide receivers, talk a little bit of stacks, talk some tight ends. Bobby, no longer. We don't have Bobby here unless he shows up in chat to give us his defensive play of the week, which everybody was begging for. And I got so many DMs asking me about Bobby's defense picks this week. So people were actually, looking forward to that every week. So Bobby, show up here, please. And then we will talk a little defense, behind that, and then we'll put it all together and make a lineup here and call it a day. All right, let's start at the running back position. Christian McCaffrey is probably the first talking point. People were worried about his what we're going to see snap rates, how many touches was he going to get, and he blew it all away with 22 rushing attempts, 10 targets, 9 receptions, and it was a mediocre. It wasn't a great rushing game for him, but all that PPR's production was huge, and he didn't find pay dirt, which is crazy. Like, I don't know what the streak of him, getting pay dirt on games that he's been healthy in is, but I know he was just a lock for a touchdown forever and ever. But the touchdowns will come. Their offense is definitely a little shaky right now, losing Purdy. So we got Mac Jones and 4K quarterback. We will get there. And Juwan Johnson's possibly going to be out, and Kittle obviously is out. So this offense may not be very.
Juwan
Jennings. Yeah, who did I say?
John Johnson. Same game, though.
Yeah, same thing. Close. But thank you, TJ. Anyways.
I just had a quick scare as I literally was inputting Juwan Johnson into a lineup as you said that. So I was like, wait, what? Wait a minute. And so I had myself a mini panic.
It's all good. The offense may be extremely inefficient, and also there's a lot of bust potential with the New Orleans offense and Rattler. There's also potential that Kellen Moore went nuts from a play calling standpoint. Tons of no huddles, fast offense. So it'll be interesting to hear your guys' thoughts. But then from there, Chase Brown again. Kyron Williams is in the mix. Achane, James Conner. We could get a loan. Jonathan Taylor, because of the defensive matchup, is tough. Also didn't do much last week, but interesting there. Derrick Henry just looked like an absolute beast. I mean, nobody was tackling that dude. So there's a lot to go. So Noto, who's your key personnel at the running back this week? My man.
Yeah, I think Christian McCaffrey kind of belongs in his own tier. You mentioned the usage from last week. You mentioned all the injuries, good matchup against the Saints indoors. I don't know. If you're playing cash games, you got to lock him in. I think for tournaments, he's still a great play too, even though he's going to be popular. Just hard for me to see him having a bad game if he gets 25 touches against the Saints. So he's my number one guy. And then I kind of like the mid-range. I like Chase Brown quite a bit. I know he wasn't as involved in the passing game as we wanted last week, but a good matchup at home against the Jaguars. I love James Conner. Trey Benson kind of stole some headlines. Everyone's kind of worried about him cutting into Conner's work. But, man, Carolina, they had a historically bad run defense last season. And then the Jaguars, my Jaguars, who were terrible, ran for 200 yards against the Panthers in week 1. So I like James Conner to bounce back in a home matchup against Carolina. And then I really like Jonathan Taylor. I know the Broncos, very good defense, but you get him at home. He could lead the NFL in touches this week. He's a guy that played on every single snap in the first half of last week's game. He kind of sat out most of the fourth quarter against the Dolphins in that blowout. But 6,700 for a guy that could see 25 touches is something I really like. And then just the two expensive running backs are going to be interesting for large field stuff. Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley. I don't think a lot of people are going to look at them because they're already paying up for McCaffrey. And, I mean, Barkley with Shipley out, I think he could see a ton of work against KC. And then Henry, obviously, just a monster, just a beast. You got the board material with the Cleveland guy saying he's not hard to tackle, all that stuff. So I think they're interesting tournament plays. But my favorites, Taylor, Conner, and McCaffrey.
Crazy to rev that guy up like that after his first week. Beermaker. My man, who are we liking this week at running back? Do you have a video? Do you have a video for the
I do, and there's a running back prominently featured. So that is Christian McCaffrey for me as well. I mean, just to see the workload, and I get the concerns. The concerns are, Mac Jones. So what's this offense going to look like? But we got to give Mac some credit. I mean, he basically carried Brian Thomas last season. So he put some big games on the board. Going to do well in this kind of offense with Kyle Shanahan. They're going to put him in positions to succeed. That's going to include put the ball in the belly of McCaffrey. Let's get him involved in the passing game. The other concern, the Saints can be a sneaky good defense and a tough place to play. So understand that. Understand the ownership. SimLabs has this guy as 44% optimal, I believe. So even at potentially 30, 35% ownership, you're still above the field in that optimal percentage. So he is clearly my number one, going to be in the majority of my lineups. Love Chase Brown again this week. I think we'd see this Cincinnati offense. I know we expected it last week. I know the Burrow stuff. He starts out the season slow, but it's a good matchup with the Jags. And that's definitely a game I'm going to be pretty much all in on. I think you can build stacks on each side and run backs all over the place. There's cheap plays there. So we'll get to all that, but really like him this week. I think there's in that same game, Travis Etienne, I'm surprised isn't seeing more ownership or a price hike. We talk about DraftKings pricing being a little bit soft. He certainly shouldn't be 5,700 after what we saw in week one. Clearly the lead back there. I think Tootin eventually works in and starts to steal some work, but for now he is underpriced. So he's another one I really like. I think we have some nice value in the mid-range that nobody's really going to go to. David Montgomery, who's not an exciting play, but that's another team I think a lot of people are nervous about. And, what is this Detroit team going to look like? So I think you can play him against his former team, Gibbs, in that same vein if you want to spend a little bit more. I mean, we could go on and on, Kirk. I haven't even mentioned Achane, who as bad as that team looked, still manages to get there on his volume. Tony Pollard in a tougher matchup, but seeing all the work. So point being, there is a ton of running backs. I could probably name 5 or 6 more that I want to get in my player pool. But the keys, McCaffrey's going to be in a ton of my lineups. Chase Brown, probably my second highest owned running back this week.
Yep, I'm glad you mentioned Etienne. He sticks out like a sore thumb to me at 5,700. He was the second leading rusher of the week last week with 143 rushing yards. Didn't hit the end zone. So if these guys, hit the end zone, they just could smash. And like you said, Bigsby out now, gone. I'm shocked at his price. I'm also shocked at the ownership projections coming in right now, because that's certainly a key game to target in on with the highest total. So I love that. I think Breece Hall is interesting. I think he looked awesome. So I think there's, like you said, there's just a ton of plays everywhere. Even in that Cleveland side, I think it was pretty clear that Dylan Sampson looked the most electric between him and Ford. They started off at the beginning to give Ford some of the goal line. He just got stuffed, and it just became Sampson, and he worked so well in the passing game that in a game where they're 11.5-point dogs against Baltimore, I kind of like that at 5,200 there. So there's like tons of plays, and obviously Achane for sure. So what do we do? Are you guys buying that? Oh, Miami sucks, they're dead. Tyreek's bitching on the sideline. Tua has been terrible for so long. I mean, maybe concussions just got the best of them for sure. But this was it was the first week of the season, and now everyone's off of this team where we have all these electric potential fantasy scorers, and the Pats defense. Hold on, let me see here. Yeah, the Pats defense without Gonzalez, it doesn't scare me at all. So 6,900, I like that too. The guy that I kind of want to fade is Kyron Williams out of all of the top guys. I don't know, you guys have a take with him? Stronger.
It'd be interesting to see if their 4th round rookie is inactive again. Byron played on like 89% of the snaps, something like that in week 1. So I'll keep an eye on the inactives list. But yeah, if he's going to be out there, we know Sean McVay loves a workhorse running back.
Yep.
Yeah, I have a little bit, mostly, a couple Cam Ward stacks. It's not the best matchup, but he looked all right against Denver. So, playing that team with a Kyron or a Puka run back, I think should be low this week. So not a ton, but this always happens with him. They bring all these guys in and we're going to split up the workload, and he just gets all the touches. His passing game involvement is what's concerning. He's shown he can do it. They just don't utilize him a lot in that capacity. So it kind of limits his upside in that sense. So a little bit here and there. Real quick, couple run. Derrick Henry to me is a phenomenal tournament play. I know you mentioned him. Don't know why he doesn't have ownership. I mean, if you can lay out a blueprint, huge home favorite, feed Derrick Henry. And in those games, if you look back historically, he has done very, very well. 11.5-point favorite. So concern is do they get way out ahead and then maybe he doesn't get to a ceiling? But he's certainly in play. And then one quick note with Cleveland, sounds like Judkin's going to make his debut here this week already. So not to pour cold water on the Sampson play. I think he's definitely going to be involved in the passing game. Showed he has those chops, and they're probably throwing a lot. But what does that backfield look like when we throw in another piece here now with Judkins?
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. All right. Any other last flyers that you feel like you missed? But Henry's going to be more popular on FanDuel, I think, for sure, which should set up. And plus, with everyone playing Lamar, it's tough to play Henry, and everyone will get their exposure with Lamar. So I do like the Henry call on DK, just because of ownership, and just we know he can do it. He might just run absolutely all over this team. But any final darts here?
I don't think I'll have any, but do you guys like Breece Hall at all?
Yeah, I do.
I was surprised. I thought Braylon Allen would see a little bit more, and he's certainly at the goal line, stole that touchdown. But Breece looked good in the passing game, and Spill's defense can be very vulnerable. So, are the Jets going to do what they did last week? We'll see, but he's certainly in play in this matchup.
Yeah, I'm between. I like Breece, and I also like Garrett Wilson from the same thing. So I like them both equally. Yeah. All right, let's move it on over to quarterback. Interesting discussion here because we're going to start it with 4K Mac Jones. Get your guys' feelings. I mean, you see 4K starter should benefit from the high pace, game with playing Kellen Moore, and also check downs should be able to get here in this spot to Christian McCaffrey. So you compare Ricky Pearsall. There's a lot you can do for cheap with this offense if this game does end up being a good one. Obviously, there's efficiency concerns with Mac Jones. So we'll get that out of the way. We'll talk Mac Jones, and then we'll talk some Lamar versus Josh Allen on the high end. Joe Burrow is still going to be up there. Burned everybody last week, but looks like people are going to come right back. And then Jalen Hurts seems pretty good because everyone's going to pay up, it looks like, for Lamar or Josh Allen, and kind of going to make Jalen Hurts a little bit less owned than the bunch. Maybe gets forgot about in a little bit, but that's certainly a game that could have a ton of back and forth. I want your guys' takes on Trevor Lawrence, but mainly I want to start off with the key personnel because of Daniel Jones last week. So you're on a hot streak with your article here. So let's hear who you're starting with this week.
Well, I didn't play Daniel Jones or
but I thought you thought he was in your write-up. No.
He might have been like a mention at the bottom of the quarterback section, but I'll take credit if you're dishing it out. As far as the guys,
you're a Daniel Jones guy.
So. Yeah, so I'd still get credit anytime he plays well. Not this week for sure. I like Drake May quite a bit at 5,200. Miami's defense was just so bad. Obviously got shredded by Daniel Jones. And May, even though he didn't play well last week, he was one of the most inaccurate quarterbacks. He still put up 16, 17 fantasy points. He's got rushing upside. I like the games in Miami. 5,200 is pretty cheap. I like a couple of his pass catchers too, which we'll get to. I have no issue with Mac Jones. I do think his ceiling is somewhat limited, but he played pretty well for the Jaguars last year. Anytime you get in a Kyle Shanahan offense, I think he's going to have a lot of good plays, set up for him, scripted for him. And then 4K, it's just, you can do so much with the rest of your roster that if he can get you 20 fantasy points, 250 and 2 touchdowns, then I think you're kind of off to the races there. You can pair him up with McCaffrey to kind of take all of the San Francisco touchdowns. I think that's going to be a popular strategy in cash games, but I like it in tournaments too. We mentioned Justin Fields, one of my favorite plays, a guy that can run for 100 yards anytime. He takes the field, and they're going to have to throw a lot to keep up with Buffalo. So I like him quite a bit. Not sure what to do with Lamar. Historically, Cleveland's kind of had his number, especially with the defensive coordinator that they have now. But obviously, this is the game where they're coming off of a tough loss or going at home. Even if they get up big, I think they're going to keep their foot on the gas since they did blow a pretty big lead late last week. So if they get up like 20, I still think they're going to be pretty aggressive offensively. I'll save the rest for Beer.
What are we thinking, Beer?
A lot to like here as well. There's a ton of different directions you can go. So for Mac Jones, I just worry about upside. in cash games, you throw him in there. Okay. He doesn't have to get to 2025 DraftKings point. Can he do that? Do we need that to win a tournament? I think so. With all the potential high scoring quarterbacks out there, yes, you're going to be allotted more salary at your other positions. But if he's operating in more of a game manager mode, I don't know if the upside's there. So it's intriguing. I built a few lineups, fun to stack them up for sure. This could be an ugly game, though. So I'm using him a little bit. I'm not avoiding it. It's hard to avoid a 4K quarterback. So, but I'll probably be under the field. That being said, the ownership surprisingly is not showing very high on him, which kind of speaks to this position being pretty deep. So high end, Jalen Hurts, probably my favorite quarterback here against the Chiefs. We'll get to the wide receivers, but this just feels like the classic squeaky wheel narrative for A.J. Brown. A good spot, kind of narrow target tree without Goddard there. Chiefs much more beatable through the air, and we know what Hurts can do with his legs. So Hurts, Allen, Lamar, all fine, but I'll go Hurts out of that group. Fields, a great call. A couple quarterbacks I want to add that tournament-wise, I don't think are going to have a ton of ownership. I mentioned Cam Ward. That's one I want to stack up. I don't love the matchup with the Rams, but I don't think the Rams are unbeatable either. So you can get some cheap stacking partners with him in Ridley. A.O. Manor is pretty cheap, who showed out well in week one, at least by usage. Another Joe Flacco. Are we wacko for Flacco this week? I think that one is paired with like a Derrick Henry. I mean, you have Tillman, you have Harold Fannin, who I'm sure we'll talk about, Njoku, Judy. A lot of ways you can stack that up and pair that with Derrick Henry. Caleb Williams, I'm going to bring to the table here as well. Had some decent plays, looked rough on a lot of his throws, but his legs were very encouraging. I mean, this guy doesn't get talked about in the rushing quarterbacks. I don't know he's going to rush for 50, 60 yards every week, but historically, and I know there's a different defensive coordinator, Detroit has been eaten alive by running quarterbacks, and Justin Fields absolutely tore this team up. So if he's going to add some value with his legs, again, a guy that you have variety of ways to stack against a Detroit defense that can be very vulnerable to the pass and likely a team that scores some points. So Chicago playing from behind, I think Caleb Williams, very, very interesting in tournaments, stacks and plenty of ways to run it back on the Detroit side.
Dude drives me crazy. Can't complete a pass.
Drives me nuts too.
He stinks. I think
he does.
I think he's good.
I think he just doesn't have the mental. I don't know.
But fantasy, there's a lot of Justin Fields, we could say stinks, but for fantasy purposes, very good.
No best marketing Justin Fields on my podcast.
Just saying, that's the narrative out there, though. So is Caleb good NFL quarterback? Who knows? I think it's too early to write that story, and I think he does get better as he gets more acclimated to this Ben Johnson system. But the point is, Detroit has struggled with running quarterbacks. They're likely playing from behind. You stack them up with an Odunze, run it back with the Detroit side, and it's 1% owned in what could be a shootout. Revenge,
too, for new head coach.
Yeah.
I love Josh Allen.
Yeah.
He's going to be – they play man, the Jets, and he's going to have the ability to just scramble and for huge yardage in this game, I think. And I like that the fact that the Fields adds a little bit more of a dimension. It looks like their offense is playing for some pushback here on both sides. Like I said, I like Breece Hall or Garrett Wilson as a run back. I'm working on who to pair. I think Coleman is the fade, and he got lucky with that tip ball too as well. But obviously they were going to him, but that was all matchup related. So this could be a different. I'll have to figure out who to pair with him. But I do like Josh Allen, and then Dak Prescott looks so cheap to me against the Giants. And all right, making a case for him, like I know his box score looks atrocious, but there was some huge defensive pass interference calls that his receivers got that were wide open, and also the CD made like a terrible drop.
Yeah, 4 drops for CD.
Yeah, and so there was so much on the table. There was a Pickens, I think, had a touchdown called back or something, but there was just so much. Like I was just watching the game and I was thinking, yes, they're terrible, they're losing, yada yada yada. but they hung in there tough, and this could have gone a lot better for Dak. And now it's 5,900, and it's a much better matchup here against the Giants. So I don't know. I'm thinking Dak is a pretty strong tournament play this week, but what do you guys think?
I'm intrigued by that offense for sure. Going back home, this is a team we've seen, put up 35, 40 points. So good matchup with the Giants. Expect CD to bounce back. I really expect George Pickens to have a much bigger game here. So, and Javonte Williams, we didn't mention him. I know a lot of people written him off. Oh, cute, 2 touchdowns. He's clearly the feature back. So I want to see if Jaden Blue is active this week. If he's not, he could be a guy that we didn't mention, but could be another guy at the running back position that's low owned in that mid range. But yeah, I like the Cowboys stacks. Noto, I'm going back to Trevor Lawrence.
Don't do it.
This is like I'm banging my head against the wall. Like, okay, this has got to be the year. Liam Cohen. He looked bad in week 1. They didn't really have to do a whole lot, but we didn't mention him. But this game, I'm going to have a lot of stacks both ways. So Burrow with his receivers. Lawrence with his receivers. So can I believe in him here this week? Thoughts? I know you're the resident Jags expert, so I want to hear your thought on him.
Can't believe in him for sure, but hey, the blind squirrel can find a nut every once in a while. So I think he's fine. He's got all the weapons. Liam Coleman after the game was talking up Brian Thomas and how they need to get him the ball more and how Trevor Lawrence missed him a few times. So I do love BTJ this week. I'm probably not going to be pairing him up with Lawrence because I had endured enough pain in week 1. But I love that game as a whole.
So to me, I look at that and I'm like, why not just I can find that 1,000 easily to get up to Burrow.
Oh yeah.
And still play BTJ, still could even play ETN. And do what I want anyway. Because like there's a stacked running back mid-range, and there's a stacked there's some good wide receiver cheap plays too this week too. So that's my only thought. But and like you can say, oh, Burrow will be chalkier, but it's quarterback ownership is never really that high. So how high do we expect him to get, especially after fizzling last week? So,
not fair. I mean, we have Allen, Lamar, and Hurts all on the slate. So quarterbacks never really get out of hand. So
but I'm with you. I've played way too much Trevor Lawrence.
I feel like I'm fully invested. You get to a certain point, and okay, I'm just going to keep playing him. Yes, until it works. So if he can't do it in this matchup, I don't know when he's going to do it. So I'm going to roll him out there a little bit. The preferred stack is obviously Burrow. Run it back with some Jags guys, but I'm going to go to Lawrence route as well. Open up a little salary.
Yep. All right. Any final mentions here, or should we just move it on over to wide receivers?
One name real quick. I'm building a few lineups with Bo Nix, who everyone was excited about, comes out in week 1 and looks absolutely horrific. So a spot against Indy, and it's easy. So, Indy just shut down Miami. Well, that may be the case with every team this season. So I think Bo Nix, very, very low owned. We know the upside he can utilize with his legs. Could get a potential shootout there. If Danny Dimes is for real, put some points on the board, pushes this offense a little bit. So Bo Nix, 1%er that I think is intriguing in tournament.
I think that game is sneaky to shoot out.
Yeah.
And you got Cortland Sutton is like just an easy pairing.
Agreed.
I don't hate Patrick Mahomes. I think he's just going to have to do everything for him right now. I don't think they're going to be able to run much against the Eagles. And they're coming off the mini bye, so, Andy Reid, extra time to prepare, revenge for the Super Bowl loss. Don't mind him.
Hollywood?
Yeah, or Kelsey.
Yeah, I mean, Kelsey's going to have to be on the field the entire game. Like, they're just going to have to use him, right? Like, if he's – what are they waiting for at this point? Is he dust? I don't know. He's on the field.
When you give Hollywood 16 targets, there's not a lot left for Kelsey. It's just a matter of upside with him. I think he can still play. He's just not the guy that we've seen over the years. So they're going to have to utilize him, but they can also be annoying with Juju and Noah Gray and all these other guys that rotate in that kind of caps it. Thornton. Yep. So just there's always a guy, and this guy's going to come out of nowhere that we don't even realize is on the team and have 7 targets. So they spread it out a lot. Kelsey's in play, no doubt. I think there's definitely better tight end plays, but Worried
Hey,
about
Paul.
Mahomes.
Yeah, Hollywood's the one. All right, let's move on over to wide receiver. Chalky, I just mentioned him. Hollywood Brown is going to be chalk 5,200 after just a massive target game. Had the drops, and that always you can expect to get with Hollywood Brown. If he could just catch, he'd be like insane. But 16 targets, 99 yards already. So yeah, he's a solid mid-range play, that could get a massive amount of target volume if he hits paid, or obviously he could rip off a huge touchdown too with his speed. Jamar Chase up there. Puka, my man, came through. They just look to him any key play in any game. That's just boom, they're looking to him. They're going to him, and you can't stop it. So he's just unbelievable. But 11 targets, 10 catches already. Like him. CeeDee Lamb is probably my favorite. I already gave a little mention that I like Dak. I think this is a perfect bounce back spot for him, as you guys mentioned as well. I also think there's a squeaky wheel narrative with BTJ, Brian Thomas Jr. And we've all said how much we like that game. I want to hear some takes on Jackson Smith, Najigba, JSN.
Easy.
So I don't have to pronounce that anymore. JSN, sorry. Zay Flowers. Chris Olave is interesting. There's so many good cheap plays here. So I'm having trouble. I like too many. So narrow it down for me, Beer.
So I'll kind of skip over the high end guys. Puka's obviously in play, going to see a ton of targets. I like him. You mentioned BTJ. I think he bounces back. CD, I think squarely in play as well. Chase, Higgins, expect them to bounce back. So all guys that I'm playing that we don't need to spend a ton of time on. I mentioned AJ Brown. He's one I definitely want to get some exposure to, and Devontae Smith. I mean, you take Goddard out of this lineup, it's that much more condensed. Calcaterra is going to be out there. He's not a guy that's going to demand a ton of route or targets in that offense. So both those guys are intriguing, but there's a lot of great plays in the mid-range. So Calvin Ridley looking like he's kind of getting steamed, but I think he's a great cash game play, and even in tournaments, that's another team he's going to see a boatload of targets. A.O. Minor, a great value play on that same team. I really like JSN. Hard to argue with that target share. I mean, if he's going to see that many targets, they didn't even throw the ball that much, and this guy got a ton of targets. So not the best matchup here for him, but hard to argue that. And his price is just ridiculous at $6K on DraftKings. So another mispricing there. I don't want to take everybody here, but Garrett Wilson's in play. I really like him. Adams, you compare with Puka Nacua in a Stafford stack. I think that's in play. Cedric Tillman, a guy that I want to highlight here for Cleveland. Everybody seems to think Jerry Jeudy's the best receiver on Cleveland. All this guy has done is outproduce Jerry Jeudy and put some big numbers on the board. Bet his prop early in the week, and it just continues to rise. And just a perfect game script. I mean, they're going to be playing from behind. I'd be shocked if Cleveland is competitive in this game. And Flacco winging the ball all over the field. Let's not forget last season, 99 yards and 2 touchdowns against this Baltimore team. So a guy with big upside in the mid-range that nobody seems to want to click here. And one quick note on Hollywood. Yes, he's going to be popular. He is the number one optimal receiver this week on SimLabs. Now, if you go over to FanDuel, 6,500, feels like a lot for Hollywood Brown. It's also nerve-wracking when this guy is chalk. There's just certain players that you'll worry about. So I'll mix them in a ton, but I'll honestly probably be under the field on Hollywood this week.
Yeah, so we thought we knew with Jeudy, and now everyone's pointing out here. I know JJ Zachariason pointed out on Twitter that he's out-targeted Jerry Jeudy in 4 or 5 healthy games since Amari Cooper was dealt. So, and then we're also going to talk tight ends that, with their 12 personnel. So, and Tillman's so cheap. So you could play them both. You could double stack that for sure easily with Jeudy too as well. Pearsall, are you going to talk? Yeah, we need to we need you to talk about Pearsall a little, and also who you got for the key personnel.
Yeah, Pearsall is one of my guys that I have tagged this week. I kind of went a little off the board with my tags. But yeah, I mean, his last 3 games, he's had 328 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns dating back to last season. Jennings might not play. Kittle's out. Ayuk's out. Deebo Samuel's gone. Great matchup against the Saints, who might have a bottom 5 secondary in the NFL. I know Mac Jones is throwing in the ball, but I will gladly be over the field on Pearsall. We have him at 5% ownership right now, which seems criminally low for a guy that just went over 100 yards in a much tougher matchup. So I like Pearsall. BTJ, I have him tagged as well. Mentioned the game environment, the squeaky wheel narrative, all that fun stuff. I do like Olave. I think, Kirk, you mentioned him when you started talking about receivers. With Rattler under center, he just loves throwing the ball to Olave. Now, the efficiency hasn't been there. Rattler's not necessarily a great quarterback, but he did see 13 targets last week, and he's kind of a nice bring back to all of your Niners shares, whether you're playing CMC or Jones, Pearsall, any of them, you can kind of get a cheap Olave as a bring back at home against San Fran, who was just torched by JSN. And Kirk, you need to say his name a few more times.
Jackson Smith and Jigba and Enigma and Jigba and Jigba.
And then my final guy, Kayshon Boutte. We have him at 1% ownership right now. Dude was almost an every down receiver dating back to last season. He's had over 20 fantasy points in 3 of his last 5 games. Great matchup against Miami. I like Drake May a lot this week, and Boutte's kind of my favorite pairing with him. And then there's a lot of other guys we can talk about. I like the skinny stack with Lamb and Neighbors. Beer mentioned AJ Brown. I think that's a good one too. And then Hollywood Brown, I was originally really high on him, but I don't necessarily love the ownership, and he might get shadowed by Quentin Mitchell on the Eagles, who held AJ Brown to 1 reception for 8 yards. I'm kind of going more Kelsey than Hollywood, but I don't feel great about it.
And real quick on Pearsall, I get the concern, but Mac Jones was a lot of the reason Brian Thomas Jr. put up numbers last season. Yep. So he's certainly going to feature his number 1 guy. What do you guys think of Kendrick Bourne? I'm struggling. I get he's cheap and they don't really have anybody, and I'm seeing a lot of talk of him. I honestly, if I'm stacking tonight, I don't mind the Mac Jones, McCaffrey, and Pearsall and just eat up all of the usage for the Niners. So maybe a triple stack of those 3 gets you a little different as well.
I have that squad with Olave right now.
Yeah, there's so many good. That's why I was saying like this mid range. So Olave, the key with him, you got 13 targets, is that he's playing in the slot, and we're not. That's why Shaheed is probably going to struggle with Rattler at quarterback. So he's a true. You could be getting a true wide receiver 1 here for so cheap. Who's going to get a bunch of targets, and he could break one. He could get in the end zone. It could do a lot of things. So. Like that, Pearsall, the same thing, a wide receiver 1 at this point for 5,300. TJ just stole my play, who I was going to talk about. I was about to say that it's Devontae Smith week, but so we are aligned. He first of all, he always does better with Goddard out. He also, in their Super Bowl last time, he outperformed AJ. And also AJ's nursing this hamstring, which is what I think the reason why he wasn't so involved in the first game. It's because, he's been battling this hamstring, and hamstrings are tough, man. So Devontae Smith just seems like a smash play because from ownership perspective, from a potential game flow, and at 5,600. And then also we have to mention DK Metcalf revenge. Like this guy looks vengeful. It looks like he's going to get it. I bet he gets a touchdown. Don't you think so?
And it has to do with the revenge, but factor in Aaron Rodgers as well, who nobody carries a bigger chip on their shoulder. So he's going to want to feed DK against his foot. We saw him against the Jets, and he wanted all the revenge, and he put it up there. He's going to feed this guy the ball against his former team. It's just the kind of guy he is. So, yeah, I think that one's a very interesting. You could even do a Metcalf JSN pairing, doesn't cost you a lot, but that's $6K range. I mean, you could just live there and be fine, not even have to go up, to the Pukas, to the Lambs. There's so much value there right now.
Yeah. So what I take away from all this is that there are some really high upside, cheap wide receiver plays here. So can do a lot with that. All right. Anyone you guys held back on want to spit out now before we move on over to tight end?
Looking through my lineup, see if I didn't mention anybody. Neighbors was brought up by Noto. I like that one, especially if you're going Dallas. I think he's a perfect running back. Even if not, he's going to see a ton of targets. So I like him a lot. And I think we mentioned pretty much everyone else. Love the Pearsall call. He's still too cheap right now. A couple guys that I do have. Roma Dunze, I mentioned with Caleb Williams. I think that's intriguing against Detroit. And then Jameson Williams, always a big play waiting to happen. That offense looked bad, but you can put them in the category with Detroit, with Dallas, with Miami, like these offenses that didn't quite perform in week one that you're going to get low ownership on. I like both sides of that with Odunze and Jameson Williams.
Yeah. I am not counting the Detroit Lions out because of one in Lambeau Field against one of the, probably the best defense in the league this season, which is just crazy how they got Parsons.
I'm still in shock weeks later. So,
you guys playing any Devontae? Chat is going crazy about Devontae.
Yeah, that's he's my favorite. He was my favorite play. I was just upset that TJ brought him out because I was saying that Goddard out. He always outperforms when Goddard is out, and also I think AJ Brown is nursing this hamstring. So in this game with a lot of pushback, I love Devontae Smith. Or are you talking about Devontae Adams?
No, Smith.
Devontae Adams we could touch on too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, both those receivers are going to see the ball so much. So I mentioned stacking Tennessee.
Yeah,
I think you could stack the Rams and run it back with a Tennessee guy as well. Stafford's not exciting, but these two guys are just going to get so much of the workload. So certainly a viable play this week.
Yeah, he got shadowed by Derek Stingley last week, so definitely better matchup this week.
And he still looked good and had a bunch of targets. Like his route running still looks pretty damn good. He had 8 targets. That's nothing to shy away from. It wasn't very productive, but absolutely. But I mean, you worry about this game environment really more so on the Tennessee side. But I like that. All right, let's move it on over to tight end because this is funny because we all thought, Njoku was the definite play, and now everybody's talking about Harold Fannin Jr., and they're playing 12 personnel. They're both out in the field a lot. He had, he got a touchdown, had 2 targets. Probably going to be a part of the offense, 3,100. But again, we're talking about a small number of targets, and all of a sudden now he's elevated into chalk status. Trey McBride is going to be the blitz, man. Blitz. Cardi loves Saints games, and he loves Trey McBride. Nothing better than those two things for our boy Cardi. You guys mentioned Kelsey. 5K, I'm interested in that. Like, you know what I mean? I'm expecting to see like 6,000 or something like that, an overpriced Kelsey for what he is at this point. And but it feels like, I mean, this is a big game for Casey after losing week 1. So feels like he needs to rise up and do something. Mark Andrews, I don't even know if he was on the field in 81 points total, 40-41 game. And he had 1 target, 1 reception for 5 yards when Likely was gone. Is this guy dust, or was that matchup? I don't know. Sam Laporte doesn't play. Tyler Warren looks like the real deal. We could go back to Njoku, and now that he's lower owned than what he was certainly last week. It's Brenton Strange. So those are all the plays. Who do you like, Noto?
Yeah, give me Travis Kelce as my favorite play. Again, I think Hollywood could get shadowed by a good cornerback, so I'm hoping the more targets go to Kelce. He did run around on 84% of dropbacks last week, so he was out there. He only had 2 catches, but I think it's a pretty good spot for him. My favorite 2 lower-owned guys, Juwan Johnson, who TJ mentioned earlier. I think he's in a good spot. Rattler loves throwing him the ball. And then Chig Okonkwo, just a guy that, we didn't think he was going to be an every down guy, but he was out there for 86% of the snaps last week. Pretty good matchup against LA. I don't mind that. And then I don't know what to do with Fannin, but I mean, I'll take anyone that Flacco's throwing the ball to. You can talk me into Tillman, Judy, Fannin, and Njoku. I mean, in a game where they're going to be airing it out a bunch against a defense that was just shredded through the air, I can play any 4 of those guys.
Beer, what are we thinking?
Pretty tight pool for me at tight end. High end, I'm going with Trey McBride. I love the spot for him against Carolina, who struggled with tight ends. He gets so much work in that offense and can't be allergic to the end zone forever. So eventually that's going to swing the other way. So he's not that expensive, so really easy to fit him into lineups. I really like Tyler Warren. You got to love what we saw in week 1, even in a tougher matchup. They're going to scheme ways to get this guy the ball. Look very similar to his Penn State usage here in week 1. So he could be low owned with people worried about that matchup. The Cleveland guys are both in play. I mean, Fannon's tough to pass at 3,100, but don't forget about Njoku. He's going to be low owned. I don't mind that pivot there. The guy I really like is Brenton Strange, who steps into a very big role here. We saw what Evan Ingram did. This guy's been productive. Saw a bunch of targets last week, and again, they didn't really have to do a whole lot. There's not a better matchup for tight ends in Cincinnati. I mean, they gave up 100 yards, 15 targets, 10 receptions to both Cleveland guys last week. So he's the guy I think is kind of falling between the cracks here with all the fan and excitement. If you want to pivot, I think Brenton Strange a phenomenal play this week. And again, McBride the high end, Strange kind of the low end for me, and then Tyler Warren in the middle. Are you guys playing these Philadelphia guys? I've messed with it a little bit. I just can't. Calcaterra is cheap. Maybe in a stack, I would go that route. Really was on the field a lot more than Granson, who I think is the better pass catcher. And maybe we see his role a little higher this week, but haven't touched a lot of that with all these other tight ends available.
I'm not personally. It just seems like there's too many plays. I will tout one homer play here, Hunter Henry. He got 8 targets. He had 117 air yards. If only we could cash those in. But Miami just looked awful. Like Tyler Warren looked amazing against them. And I have a feeling that Hunter Henry is going to have a big day here as Drake May's guy in this one. So 4,900 looks like a little pricey. And so I think he's going to be pretty low owned. So sign me up. I'm thinking he's definitely getting a touchdown in this game and maybe even 2. Other than that, I don't have much. You got any other guys, Noto?
I don't think so. I like the Hunter Henry call. We did see Dalton Kincaid catch a touchdown, but I want to see a little bit more from him. So I'm probably sticking with the guys I mentioned.
Why is it with Dalton Kincaid? They love to use him early in the game, and then he just gets forgotten about. Like, he's one of the best first quarter bets because they always have design plays for him right off the rip, and then you just don't see him anymore after that. So it's very strange.
Bet him first touchdown. Is what you're saying?
Oh, like first quarter receiving yard, those kind of props. Him and Achan tend to get the ball early in the game. So if you're a betting person, look into those. But just weird with him.
All right, let's head on over to defense. There's going to be some chalk here with the Rams at 3,100 against Cam Ward. The Steelers look like they're going to be popular. Seattle, 2,700.
Baltimore.
The Saints you can even play just because they're cheap against Mac Jones, who is not very mobile. I will just say that nicely. And yeah, I don't know. I never really care much about D. You guys have a strong take on any of them?
No, I tend to mix and match them. So a few that I'm playing more than others. I like Arizona, Carolina. I mean, I expect them to look better, but Bryce Young looked like he took 5 steps back last week. So they're in play. I like the Saints call. You know, if Mac Jones is not ready, again, that can be a tough place to play. So they're a team I'm using. I think the Lions, I talked up Caleb Williams, but we could also get bad Caleb Williams. So that can be a tough place to play. Can be loud at Ford Field. Place should be fired up. So Lions can be a sneaky defense here this week.
Noto, any faves?
I mean, I've been playing DFS for 15 years. I don't think I've ever picked a good defense. So let's bring in TJ. Let's see if he's got any defenses for us.
Rams are my favorite if I can afford them. Just because I had some winnings on FanDuel that I got to use. I'm playing a lot over there this week, and I don't mind like a full out punt to the Titans over there.
All right.
There we go.
Oh, had to get rid of me, and I accidentally got rid of Beer. There we go. We're back.
All right. Well, it's good timing. We're going to build the lineup, so hopefully you will put that up on the screen for us. Beer, this is your first week on the show for this season. Happy to have you, but happy to have you start off the lineup with who we're going to use at quarterback.
Oh, quarterback.
And a stack. We're obviously stacking, so you get the stack call.
Let's go on the cheap and go with Drake May. You guys both seem to like him. I'm very high on him this season. My worry is New England has struggled in Miami early in the season. We know all the narratives there, but he's cheap enough with his running upside, and let's start there.
Well, I'm going to override you for whoever you were going to pair him. We're going to put Hunter Henry in.
No booty?
We can do a double too if you want, but I'm very convicted in Hunter Henry this week.
No issues. I mean, find somebody that loves you as much as Drake May loves Hunter Henry, so no issue with that.
We gotta run it back on the other side. Noto.
I don't like anyone on Miami.
Not even Achane?
Not even Achane.
Uh-oh.
I mean, he's the easy answer. If you wanted to get crazy in a tournament, you take the shot on Tyreek, but I feel pretty good about Achane. He's always seems to find a way to get his with Tua in the lineup.
All right, throw him in there.
All right, so you can pick the other running back.
Let's go. We're going to have a lot of salary. Let's go up to Saquon.
Wow. I haven't even heard anyone tout Saquon this week.
No Shipley. I don't think Bigsby's going to be up to speed on the playbook.
All right. So let me put him in here. Another wide receiver.
What are we looking at salary-wise?
We can do a lot, actually. We're looking more in the mid-range type stuff, like that fits easy. Like Higgins fits easy, obviously. Like this is not going to be the chalkiest build in general, so especially with Saquon, so we can we could fill some chalk. Hollywood's there, Pearsall's there, easy.
I was going to say Pearsall. I like Tillman. I think BTJ would be intriguing for some upside here. So let's throw Pearsall in there, see what it looks like.
Or do we want to use CMC?
I mean, he's my favorite play of the week, so I don't mind the 3 running back build this week at all.
Yeah, let's do that.
All right, we can fit. Who said they like Odunze?
I did.
We can do him. We can do a run back to Terrence McMillan. A flop leg after he, he looked good, got the targets, didn't get touchdown, was, massive chalk last week. Probably not going to be this week. It really depends on how low we go with defense. TJ, take a play here, buddy.
You like the Rams, so
we have the salary, and I do like the Rams. So yeah, that would be my choice here.
All right, and what does that leave us?
$6K for a receiver. You can choose between Smith and Jigba, DK Metcalf, Devontae Adams, Devonta Smith, our guy. Lots of great choices.
All right. Let's all dupe. Let's everybody in the chat, all of us, let's all dupe the same lineup, and then and all win and ruin it ourselves. But actually, there's you can play around at 6K. But all right, any final words for the people, Noto?
No, good luck. As always, we'll have all our stuff updated all the way up to lock. I'm gonna throw this lineup in with Hollywood as my last piece, and we'll see how it goes. But yeah, fun having you on, Beer. Can't wait to do the show with you guys the rest of the year.
Yeah, Beer, final words. Thank you for coming.
Hey, glad to be here. Sorry I missed last week, but looking forward to the season. Appreciate the chat. Very active. Some great questions. So good luck to everybody, and let's go win some money this week.
All right, this has been the RG DFS Tournament Takes Podcast Week 2 edition, and we're out.